All right, so this is video number 4, common buyer objections and resistance. So this part is crucial. Once you understand this, then you really can apply this to all different niches across the board. So this is not very just specific to one niche, it's specific to all niches. And this is going to help you sell better when it comes to your video sales letters and even sales letters. All right, first things first. Let's talk about resistance. Your prospect is ready to put his or her guard up at any time. If you think about when you're talking to somebody, even if you're not trying to sell them something, you're trying to convince them of something. Most of the time, they're ready to put their guard up and become skeptical about whatever you're trying to convince them of, right? If you think of those times that you've had that, there are reasons why they're ready to put their guard up. And that is because they've been burned before. You don't really know what kind of experience that they have had before. They may have had a negative experience before. They haven't had any positive experiences. And maybe you are their first positive experience. So with that in mind, it's going to help you sell better, because you're going to be able to provide value. You're going to be able to gain trust from them. By understanding these objections and resistance, you'll be able to put a lot of these into your video sales letter and therefore lower their guard and gain their trust. So buying resistance across niches and markets are very, very similar. They don't really change. They are very similar. So you can use this over and over again once you've learned it. But knowing them and applying them to your products and services will allow you to integrate them into your video sales letter. All right, so let's talk about common resistance, their thoughts behind that resistance, and options and responses that you can take. One common resistance or objection that a lot of people have is they're thinking, well, you don't understand what I'm going through. They're going through something. Maybe the thought behind that is they feel all alone in their pain or problem. And who knows that they may have felt this way for a while and no one just gets it. Maybe they've been through a health problem and they've been through doctors and people just don't get it because they're in this excruciating pain. People don't understand where they're coming from. Other people on the outside think they're crazy because it's in their head or whatever. It doesn't have to be a health pain. It can be a physical pain. It can be a mental urge or anything. The point of what I'm trying to say is that at the end of the day, many of these people feel like they're all alone. So your response to that is this. Tell your story and relate to them. Tell them that you know their pain. You've been in their shoes. You know their pain. You've been there. You've done that. But you got out. So the difference is that you got out, right? So if you really know what is the pain and you've done the research that we talked about in the previous video, then at this point in time, you should understand how to relate to them. And of course, if you have a story and you can relate to them, that's actually more powerful than many other things. All right? So the second common resistance is, who are you to tell me anything? I just don't believe you. All right, so that's common. I mean, we've all probably thought that in our heads. And the reason why is because you're really thinking, well, you don't understand what I'm going through. And then when you tell them, okay, I've been there, I've done that, it's like, okay, I trust you a little bit, but not all the way. Their eyes are still slightly shut. Their ears are open and they're listening, but they're not yet convinced. They want to know, how are you qualified to teach them and help them get out of their pain? So obviously your response could be your credentials, your background, your history, what you've been through, and things like that. Your history, your background, your credentials are very, important. So if you have a degree in some area that applies to that, or you have experience, or you have a background in that area, or something to say, hey, I've been there and here's why. Another common resistance is, well, I can get this later on. And that's true. A lot of times people are thinking, I'm really busy in my life, I can get this later. But then there is no later because they just forget about it. And we've all been there and done that too, right? So the thought is, it's urgent, I can do this later, but they forget about it. The response is, you might want to use some scarcity, like limited quantity, countdown timer, limited time to get this and access it. Or it could be a price jump, early bird discount pricing, price jump after that, and after a certain amount of period. Another common resistance is, bah, this isn't going to work for me. It never does. Now this kind of goes back to the first pain that I talked about earlier, and talks about, okay, they've been burned before, they've tried and tried and tried, it didn't work before, why should it work now? And the response in this case can be social proof and testimonials, especially from people who were in their very same skeptical shoes. Now, as you know, before you actually buy a product and service, generally in your head you're thinking, well, I've been burned before, or I've gotten this product or similar product and it just never worked for me. Why should it work for me now? So if you can find social proof and testimonials from people who were skeptical but now they're not, that's actually more powerful than a testimonial just saying, hey, this is a great product. Because most people are in that mindset. They're in that mindset of, I'm skeptical now, I'm open to you to convince me otherwise, but I'm still skeptical. You can if you can get some testimonials or social proof that says, I didn't believe in this because blah 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 blah, but now I do. That's really, really powerful, and that could be your response. All right, so we're almost done here. We're almost done, close to the last slide. And the other common resistance can be, what if this doesn't work out? So this is kind of at the end of your video sales letter. What if this doesn't work out? And I mean, you can voice these questions if you would like to. You can use these in your video sales letter. What if it doesn't work out? The thoughts behind that is, what if something happens? It doesn't work for me, or it's not compatible for me, or, whatever. The response is a money back guarantee. Now, oftentimes what we found through testing is the longer the money back guarantee, the better, and it just removes fear. So sometimes if you do something like a crazy 1-year money back guarantee, what we found is most people they don't ask for the money back guarantee because they tend to forget about it, or they're like, okay, you must believe in your product so much you're willing to give a 1-year money back guarantee. And you will have some people that will wait to the end of the year, but for the majority of part, I mean, you probably will decrease your refund rate. Now, that applies to a good product. If the product is bad, buggy, has problems and stuff like that, you may have a higher refund rate. So you won't know until you test it out. All right, so the next one is, well, I can't pay for this now. They really, really want it, but they can't pay for it. So thoughts behind that is, I'd like this, but I live paycheck to paycheck, or I'm low on cash. How can I pay for this? The easy response to that is simply by offering payment plans. Break up the high ticket item or whatever it costs, break it up and charge a payment plan. Oftentimes the payment plan will actually, when combined together, will cost more than the actual item itself. But people are willing to do that because it removes some risk. And so instead of paying it all up front, they can pay with a payment plan, and you can actually increase your conversions that way. So that's it. Let's move on to the next video, and we're going to start the video sales letter formula. First thing, part one is the next 3 videos, and I'm basically going to go over the template that you can follow so you can write out your sales letter. And then to make it a hybrid, we are actually going to combine technology, and I'll show you what you need to do in certain situations and things like that to make it a smart video sales letter. All right, let's move on in the next video.